Hello everyone, and thank you for coming to the Confident Nerd anti-bullying event. I am the Confident Nerd's wife, Erin, and I guess that makes me Mrs. Confident Nerd. But you can call me Erin though. My mom told me to marry a nerd because they make the best husbands. Who knew that I really would? My husband's real name is Danny McConaughey, and with his presentation today, he hopes to give you the tools to alleviate bullying in your classroom and schools. He hopes by doing this, the home life of bullies and victims improve. While at home, kids should not be worrying about how they will be bullied tomorrow in school. Home is a place for fun, love, and togetherness. Please help me in welcoming my husband, Danny McConaughey, the Confident Nerd.
My wife, Erin, she really stepped out of her comfort zone doing the introduction for me, so I'd like to thank her real quick with a round of applause. Thank you, honey. And I'd also like to thank you. Thank you for coming to today's Confident Nerd Anti-Bullying event. And this event is not just about bullying. It's also about how to build the confidence of kids. I feel that this is the best way to defeat bullying. That confidence, it is the enemy of bullying, or how I really like to look at it is that confidence is the good guy and bullying is the bad guy. Do you have a bad case of the bullies? Because I have the antidote, confidence. Along with confidence, we're also going to touch on what bullying is and why other people bully. We're going to do an exercise so that we can all try to get an understanding and feeling of what it's really like to be bullied. We're going to look at different ways to alleviate and deal with bullying. We're going to look at bystanders. How can we get bystanders involved so that they stand up for victims of bullying? We're going to talk about superpowers. Everybody in here has at least one superpower. And I'd like for you to start thinking of your superpower. We're going to talk about nerds. We're going to talk about nerds candy. Something I know about these that I'd like to share with you. And we're going to do another exercise to look at what we discussed today, how it helped a victim of bullying. Before I get into all of that, I feel like I need to let you know, and you may be wondering who I am. As my wife said, my name is Danny McConaughey. I am the Confident Nerd. I, like a lot of kids, I was bullied in school while growing up. I'd like to tell you it stopped there, but it didn't. I've also been bullied in previous jobs I've had. I've been a substitute teacher, and I work for a company where I was in schools on a daily basis. So I've seen and heard some bullying in schools, but I know it's not anywhere close to what a full-time teacher sees. And I also research bullying. I do that simply by reading books, news articles, interviewing others, and just trying to stay on top of things in the world of bullying. Throughout today's presentation, there may be times where you ask yourself, is he talking to me or a child? When that happens, I just ask that you pretend you're a kid. Think back to when you were a child and place yourself there. There's also going to be times where I need to reference a bully. And as we discussed, there may be times where you need to reference a bully so that we don't use real names, or so that we don't even have to make names up. We're going to use names of bullies from movies. If anybody here knows who this is, go ahead and shout it out. Let's have some fun with this. Tim and Aaron, you help us out too. Anybody know who this is? Scut Farkus from A Christmas Story. This is Ralphie's bully. Mean Girls, Regina George. This is an older one. This is Stan Gable, Revenge of the Nerds. Karate Kid, Johnny Lawrence. That was Daniel's bully. Oh. This is my favorite movie of all time, Back to the Future. This is Marty McFly's bully, Biff Tannen. And as I do this presentation, most of the time you'll hear me use Biff as my bully. This is Fred O'Banion from Dazed and Confused, Chris Hargensen from the movie Carrie, and Sid Phillips from Toy Story. So again, if you have to use any of these names to reference a bully, feel free. So what is bullying? Would anybody here like to share what they think bullying is? Anyone? Tricia?
My son, lots of times, it's when one person makes someone else do something that they don't want to do, or something they're uncomfortable with, or they've injured their personal space.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's hurting someone on purpose. It's picking on them, teasing them on purpose to hurt them or to try to gain power on them. That's exactly it. We're going to leave the definition of bullying at that. So why do people bully? There's a few different reasons why people bully. It could be something that the bully, maybe they've been bullied. Maybe they've been bullied in school. Maybe they've been bullied at home by siblings, or maybe they've even been bullied by their parents. They come to school and they bully because that's what they know, or they're taking their aggressions out on other students. It could be that maybe somebody's used to getting their way at home. They always get their way at home. They come to school and they say, hey, oh, I should get my way here, and they bully. A lot of times I feel that the bullies, they don't like themselves, so they bully other kids to try to bring themselves up and push that victim down. And a lot of times I feel that the bully is jealous of their victims. That victim has something that bully wants. The something that the bully wants, it can be the ability to have a good time. Maybe the victim's having a good time, the bully sees this, and they say, hey, I'm not having a good time, nobody should be. So that bully tries to push that victim down. It could be even, maybe the victim has strong confidence. The bully sees this, and they say, well, I don't have strong confidence. Again, they try to push that victim down and try to bring themselves up. Bullying, it can also be provoked. I read a story of where a kid, he spilled macaroni on the school bully. He looked at the bully and he said, hey, are you going to wear that or eat it? Not what you want to say to a bully. This is provoking the bully. In the same story, the child was getting bullied later on by multiple bullies. Again, he says, well, guys, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. Well, I'll use small words so you can understand. Again, this is provoking the bully. This is not what we want to do. I'd like to do an exercise now that I feel that will give us all a feeling and understanding of what it's like to be bullied. So I would like for you to place yourself in the following illustration. Picture with me an old rickety bridge, the kind you have to walk across. It's high up above a river, almost a quarter-mile long, made of old rope and rotting with planks. Maybe it looks a little something like this. Indiana Jones wouldn't cross this bridge. Yet here we are. It's Monday morning, and a little boy or girl stands at the beginning of that bridge. They take a step. Why does Regina always have to pick on me on the school bus? She's 2 years older than me. I'm off the school bus, but I hope I don't run into Johnny before school. He's always punching me in the shoulder and telling me he's just kidding, but it really hurts. Second period, the worst part of my day. I sit behind the biggest bully in school, Biff. Can't people see him being so mean to me? Why won't somebody do something? I'm so scared. The other day, I felt so good about myself. I was wearing my new basketball shoes. That isn't until Biff came up to me and said, you think you're so cool in your new shoes? Well, you're not. You're still a nerd. on my way home, I gotta get through Regina again. Here's to hoping she had a good day, because if she doesn't, I sure feel like she takes it out on me. How do you feel? Do you think, is that a good exercise to try to get an understanding, a feeling of what it's like to be bullied? Do you feel down, sad, disappointed, sorry for these kids? Let's look at what can we do to help these children, because nobody should walk a bridge like that. What can we do to alleviate and deal with bullying? This is a hard question to answer. It's a hard question because there's no definite answer. What will work maybe for one child, one situation, may not work for the other. But I do know this. We need to start talking to kids about bullying, letting them know that it is wrong before age 11. And we need to do that. You can't start doing this at age 10. I feel like we really need to start doing it even when it's possible the kids could be bullied. This is as early as first grade, or maybe even earlier, because kids can get bullied by someone older than them. Let's look at those older kids. I have an older brother who is 36. I'm 33. No big deal, right? We're close to the same age. We're adults. We're grown up. No big deal. I have an older brother who is 15. I'm 12. Big deal, right? You're not close in age. You're still kids. Think about that. 12 to 15 is the same age difference between 33 and 36. I feel, looking back at my bullying, I feel that getting bullied by the older kids hurt than getting bullied more by kids my own age. We cannot just say, oh, he's just a year older than you, just shake it off. If we practice compassion, kids will see that and do the same. We need to start talking about bullying early in the school year too. I wanted to get this event in before school started. We need to start talking about it even before bullying, before it even starts. I think if anti-bullying initiative, if it could be done a few times a year, I think that would be ideal. I'd hate to see a school do something in the beginning of the year, and then maybe bullying doesn't seem to be a big deal, and somebody says, well, I don't think we need to do another anti-bullying initiative because bullying doesn't seem to be a problem in our school right now. And then what starts to happen is the bullying starts to occur because kids forgot about that anti-bullying message from the beginning of the year. Has anyone here have you heard of a bully box? Anybody heard of this? This is a way, it's supposed to be a way for kids to report bullying anonymously. This is something that should be attached to the school structure so nobody can steal it. It's a box that should be locked so nobody can steal the tips inside it. And it really needs to be in an area where teachers and school staff can keep an eye on it so it's not vandalized or broken into. In theory, I think this box works, but kids know that they're taking a chance of being seen when putting this anonymous tip into the box. Plus, there's no way to communicate with the students who put the tips into the box. I thought if there was some way they could report bullying anonymously through emails and text messages, I thought that would be ideal. And it wasn't until my mother-in-law, she told me to check out a website, an anti-bullying website. I did, and this website led me to another website. Has anyone here heard of School Tip Line? School Tip Line, it's a way for students to report bullying anonymously through emails and through text messages. There's a mass alert feature. If you need to send out a mass of text messages to the students, you can do that. You can communicate with the students who left the tips, and this remains anonymous. You can report, the tips can be about bullying, they can be about vandalism, they can be about drugs. South Bend School District uses this school tip line. I called them, I talked to them about it. They said that they liked it. They said people are utilizing it. 95% of the tips are anonymous. Over half of the tips that come in are through text messages. She said most of the tips are about bullying, but there's been tips about vandalism, and there's even been tips about students selling drugs. They said they would recommend it, and that it is worth the price. To find out more information about School Tip Line, go to schooltipline.com, and you can also, if you click on Find My School, and if you type in South Bend, all the South Bend schools are going to pop up. And this is, if you find out a school is interested about this, have them contact me through confidentnerd.com, because there's a good chance I can get the school a discount on this. Kids can create what I like to call a confidence group. A confidence group is simply three or so kids getting together, hopefully at the beginning of the year, and just promising to each other, saying, hey, if you get bullied this year, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there to help you stand up to that bully, to help your confidence. And the students just promise this to each other. I don't think anybody would form a confidence group like this, but I think it's worth mentioning of situations I've been in school. The teacher says, okay, everybody get a partner. And my heart starts racing because there's an odd number of students in the class. I'm the odd man out. And then the teacher says, well, Danny, you just go join that group over there. Or maybe the teacher says, well, Danny, don't worry, I'll be your partner. If there's a student in your class or your school who is shy, maybe doesn't have the strongest confidence, or doesn't have a lot of friends, then as a teacher, let that student know, say, hey, if you get bullied this year, I want you to promise to tell me, because that is going to mean the world to that student. We all know we can talk to the bully's parents, and I'm okay with that if it comes to that. They won't let you talk to the bully's parents.
They have confidentiality rights. They tell you can't. Because that was one of my complaints.
Right.
Was that I said, when I went to school, you called their parents in, and I came in with my child, and we hammered it out at the principal's office. Yeah. They don't do that. And sometimes then I say, well, what's the repercussion? Because the problem I'm having is the kids will actually come up to my son and say, oh, you can tell your mom, I already know they're not going to do anything. So the punishment doesn't fit the crime. They already know that whatever's happening, nothing's going to happen to them. Or if it is, it's just, I don't care. So they suspend me. I get to stay home.
Yeah.
And then when they stay home, parents still have to go to work, so they get to watch TV, they get their iPod. So they're like, hey, this is a luxury.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
So, there's even time my son's teacher has bullied him. I go for 5 years. He's in the 6th grade. For 5 years, he's been in the same school system, the same school and everything. For 5 years, every year I go out and talk to the teacher ahead of time. I said, he's a victim of bullying. He's an honor roll. I think that probably has a lot to do with it.
Right.
And so I even tell him at lunchtime, if you have assigned seating, put him with the non-confrontational children, which is the non-bullying.
Right.
I'm trying to say that in a polite way. It's
Right.
the same thing when you assign seats. He needs to be with non-confrontational children.
Right.
That means not only his table, that means the table that's next to him. Because what happens is the kid sitting next to him will turn around and hit him on the head, or take his chocolate milk and smash it in his face. He's almost in 6th grade. He has to take a change of clothes to school.
Do they do your seating that you ask? At least?
They did, but sometimes my son puts up with it because he has been brainwashed by the bullies that nothing's going to happen. And I tell him, no, you need to tell the teacher or whoever's responsible for you. Well, sometimes the teacher will leave the classroom and he has to talk to somebody in the hallway, which leaves the whole class unattended. There's nobody in there. You're just setting it up. And then when there's a substitute teacher, that's even worse.
Right.
Because nobody listens to himself.
Right.
So, he's already now, we'll start school in about 2 weeks and he's terrified. He's absolutely terrified.
We need to talk more after
Yeah.
this is done.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know. See, I thought parents could always talk to parents.
I can try asking again and see what happens, because they have their, what they call protocol, or their list of how they do things in order. And they'll say, okay, well, we'll talk to the student. And need you to call me back and let me know what were the repercussions, what kind of
Right.
consequences were given. And they said, well, we can't give that information out because, you know, it's confidentiality, the rights of the student. And I'm like, okay.
I read in a story, if you can talk to parents, I'm sure some schools allow this, but an interesting story I read, that, take what you want from this, but this lady, the students and the parents were in the classroom for an event. All the students, all their parents were in the classroom for an event. And this lady, she knew that her daughter was getting bullied by Regina. In the classroom, this mom politely goes up to Regina and says, I know about the bullying to my daughter, and I'm going to have to take her home. And in that same event, when Regina wasn't around her mom, she was in the room, she could see what's going on. This other mom went up to Regina's mom. They talked about the weather, the school, and the community, but this mom never once mentioned the bullying. And if I'm Regina, and I'm looking at this, I'm sitting there, I'm stewing, and thinking, oh my gosh, she's telling my mom, I'm going to get in trouble. But this mom never once mentioned bullying to the other mom. And the whole time, Regina's going to go home and be like, oh my gosh, when is she going to punish me? When is she going to talk to me? And the story had only finished up by saying that this girl never got bullied by Regina again. I would have liked to know more about that, but that's all that was said about that.
Yes, so next week I will be meeting with the teacher at the parent-teacher night over in the city schools class and everything. And last year, even his teacher was bullying him. He could right in his face screaming and hollering at him. I'm like, excuse me?
I've heard about
So
that.
we went to parent-teacher conference. I was all up in his face. And I said, now, how do you like it?
Yeah.
He was so red and flustered, and he had to calm down. And then he finally apologized. I said, your apology is not accepted to me. I said, you need to treat him and protect him. I am
Yes.
trusting you with my child.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, his child, because I work with the same school system but in a different building, his child goes to my school.
Oh,
And I told him, I said, I always make sure that your child is very well taken care
yeah.
of. You know, and I said, I expect the same out of you, whether I have your child or not.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been ongoing. I've asked the assistant principal to call me back. Sometimes she will, sometimes she won't. We had a problem at the end of school year.
Right.
We had 2 and 3 weeks left to go. She never called me back, didn't know what happened.
And sometimes you just have to know that you're the bigger person.
Yeah.
And it takes a big person, not, to understand
And
that.
it's very hard, so
Yeah.
every year when I go to school, I already have this, I'm already mad, and I
Right.
try to keep it under control, because when I meet the new teacher, it's not their fault, the history we've had, so what I try to do is let them know, okay, this is what happened, I need you to make sure that you play extra account. I mean, my son would go to the bathroom, and the boys, they would either shut the door where he couldn't get out, or they shut the door so he couldn't go in, and he couldn't go to the bathroom. So I said, okay, so now this year when he comes, I have a whole long list of telling him, when he goes to lunch, he has to sit here. When he goes
Yeah.
here, he has to sit here. If he needs to go to the bathroom, let him go. Preferably, let him go by himself.
Yeah.
And after, like, the first day of school, you're gonna know who the bullies are.
Yeah.
You already know about the first day of school. And it's a very big problem. That's why when I saw this, I was like, I'm hoping you can give me some kind of guidance, to tell
Right.
me what to do, what not to do. I mean, I don't know. I'm ready to go to the Board of Education if I have to.
Right.
I mean, because this is just getting ridiculous, and these kids aren't getting punished, nothing's happening.
Right. Well, hopefully I give you, Patricia, some good tips
I
here.
know, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to.
No, that's all right.
This is just a real sore spot with me.
I understand, that's what we're here for. What can we do at home to help our kids with bullying, and not just bullying, but to build their confidence? I feel that we need to limit technology use. We can, when the child gets home from school, let them know that they have an hour to use technology. This could simply be on a timer. When that time's up, the children can go outside and play. They can go outside and play with their friends. They can do their homework. They can hang out with their parents. If your child asks you why, give them a big hug and say, it's because I love you. Now, don't get me wrong, I think technology is great, but I think too much of it can be negative. We need to keep an eye on what our kids are doing with technology. I saw a child once using an app. This app was for the iPhone and the iPad. I thought this was the cutest little app because it was a cute little kitten that would repeat everything you say in a cute little kitten voice. And it wasn't so cute after I saw what the kid did next. They knocked the cat out. You touch the screen, and it's like punching the cat until it falls to the floor. So again, I just think we need to keep an eye on what our kids are doing with technology. We need to simply set aside time to be with our kids. We need to schedule time. And I just think doing this, it builds trust with our kids. It's bonding. It lets our kids know that their feelings and that their thoughts really matter to us. If we do this, I believe that our children will open up to us in the future about problems and stresses in their life. And this bonding, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. For me, it was simple. It was looking forward to Friday nights. My family would get together, we'd hang out, we'd order some pizza, and we'd watch TGIF. I loved getting together with my family and doing this. With some Full House, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, and just the 10 of us. And as soon as, whenever TGIF was over and it was time for bed, I'd start looking forward to next Friday night to get some pizza, to hang out with my family, and to watch TGIF. And it probably didn't hurt that I had a crush on DJ, too. If you think your child has something that they want to tell you, but maybe they're not opening up about it, let them know that they can write you a message or even send you a text message these days. Sometimes face-to-face is hard, but I think once that message or text message has been exchanged, I really think it's going to lead to face-to-face verbal communication. Has anybody in here played sports before? I don't know, my wife Erin's played sports, Joanne, Tim. And how did you guys get better? Practiced. You practiced. I think for kids to defeat bullying, for them to fend off bullies, they need to practice. They need practiced responses. These practice responses are used to defeat the bully. And a few things that I think make the responses or the comebacks to the bully stronger is I think you can use the bully's name. Leave me alone. Biff, leave me alone. I think if you avoid contractions, I think this just adds a little more power to the response and to the message to the bully. Biff, I've had enough and I'm going to tell the teacher. Biff, I have had enough and I am going to tell the teacher. And you can also tell them to add gestures to that message. Biff, I have had enough and I'm going to tell the teacher. Kids need these practice responses because they're quick. I think quick responses, I think it helps to throw off the bully. As soon as the bullying occurs, these responses need to be laid out. I like to teach kids what I like to call the basement or balcony response to bullying. I like this because it's easy for them to recall, and I feel it's a positive way to respond to the bullying. First, basements these days, a lot of basements, they have big couches, big screen TVs, and that's where the video game system is. Well, I want you to think about the basement I had when I grew up. It was cold, dreary, damp, there were bugs in there, probably mice. I had